Fanny Adams, born on April 30th, 1859, resided with her family on the northern side of Alton, a Hampshire market town in England, specifically on Tannhouse Lane. In the 1861 census, she was recorded living with her father and 5 siblings. Described as a tall, attractive, and bright girl, Fanny often appeared older than her actual 8 years, and was known in the community for her spirited and cheerful nature. Her closest friend, Minnie Warner, shared the same age and lived next door in Tannhouse Lane. Alton gained prominence for its abundant hops, leading to the establishment of numerous breweries and making hop picking a significant part of the town's economy until the mid-20th century. On the afternoon of August 24th, 1867, the weather was reported as pleasant, sunny, and hot. During this time, Fanny, accompanied by her sister Lizzie and closest friend Minnie Warner, approached her mother Harriet Adams, seeking permission to venture to the nearby flood meadow. Harriet, content with the idea and occupied with household tasks, granted the girls leave. Playing in the flood meadow was a common pastime for Fanny and the local children due to its proximity to Tannhouse Lane and the town's relatively peaceful history devoid of notable criminal incidents. As they made their way toward Flood Meadows and entered a hop garden, they encountered Frederick Baker, a 29-year-old solicitor's clerk. Baker, who had moved from Guildford to live and work in Alton about a year prior, sported a frock coat, light-colored trousers, and a tall hat. Baker handed Minnie and Lizzie 3 halfpence for sweets, and Fanny received another halfpenny. As they had seen Baker at church meetings before, the girls felt at ease accepting money from him. Subsequently, Baker observed the girls playing and consuming blackberries he had gathered for them while they frolicked up and down the hollow, a lane leading to the neighboring village of Sheldon. After some time, Lizzie and Minnie decided to return home, feeling they had played enough. At this point, Baker approached Fanny and urged her to accompany him to Sheldon. However, Fanny declined, prompting Baker to forcibly abduct her and transport her into a nearby hop garden. Lizzie and Minnie hurried back to Tannhouse Lane, seeking Martha Warner. Despite recounting the incident, Martha dismissed their story, leading the girls to continue playing, unaware of Fanny's abduction. It wasn't until 5 p.m. when they returned home for dinner that Mrs. Gardner, a Tannhouse Lane resident, noticed Fanny's absence. Concerned, she inquired about Fanny's whereabouts, prompting the children to relay the events of the day and inform her about Fanny being taken by Baker. Mrs. Gardner promptly informed Fanny's mother, Harriet, and the 2 women embarked on a search for her. After traveling a short distance, they encountered Baker near a gate separating the hop garden from Flood Meadow. As reported by the Hampshire Chronicle, Mrs. Gardner confronted Baker about Fanny's whereabouts. Baker defended himself by claiming he often gave money to children for sweets. Unconvinced, Mrs. Gardner threatened to involve the police, to which Baker casually responded she could do as she pleased. Baker's respected position as a solicitor's clerk initially dissuaded suspicion from the 2 women, leading them to return home, assuming Fanny was still playing in the nearby fields. Between 7 and 8 p.m., with Fanny still absent from home, Harriet and a group of concerned neighbors initiated a search for the missing child as dusk settled. Their efforts began in the hollow, but yielded no results. However, in a nearby hop garden, Thomas Gates, a Crimean War veteran laborer, discovered a gruesome sight while attending to the crops: Fanny's head impaled on 2 hop poles. The horrifying discovery revealed that Fanny's ear had been severed, while the head exhibited 2 significant cuts from the mouth to the ear across the temple. Further investigation uncovered more disturbing details. The child's remains were dismembered. Her head, arms, and legs were separated from the torso. The left side of her chest bore 3 incisions, with a deep cut on the left arm dividing the muscles. Her forearm was severed at the elbow joint, and left leg nearly detached at the hip joint, with her left foot amputated at the ankle. The right leg was torn from the torso, and the contents of her pelvis and chest were entirely removed. Additionally, 5 more incisions were found on the liver. Fanny's heart had been removed, her vagina was missing, both eyes were gouged out, and recovered from the nearby river Wey. Harriet, devastated by the news, collapsed while attempting to inform her husband, who was playing cricket at the time. Instead, a message was relayed to him. Upon learning the horrifying details, George hurried home, armed with a shotgun, intending to find the culprit. However, neighbors intervened, and they stayed with him throughout the night. The following day, a large number of people gathered at the Hop Garden to assist in gathering Fanny's scattered remains. Despite efforts, the police failed to locate the murder weapons, suspecting the use of small knives, as the ground had likely been inadvertently disturbed by the searching crowd. Nonetheless, Fanny's cut clothing was recovered, scattered across the field, except for her hat. While most of Fanny's body parts were collected that day, an arm, foot, and intestines were found the next morning. One foot still in a shoe, and a hand clutched the 2 halfpence given to Fanny by Baker. Fanny's remains were taken to a doctor's surgery on Amory Street for a post-mortem examination. Interestingly, this surgery later became Ye Old Leathern Bottle Public House, and now serves as a private residence. The body parts were stitched together just yards away from Fanny's home, before being taken by Hampshire Constabulary officers to the local police station. A stone, with flesh and hair adhering to it, was submitted to the police as potential evidence, believing to have been the murder weapon. That night, Police Superintendent William Cheney hurried from the station to Flood Meadow, guided by several individuals who led him to the leathern bottle. Upon arrival, the house's proprietor handed Cheney a labeled bundle marked as portions of a child. Collaborating with his officers, Cheney organized a search to collect the missing body parts. Having received reports that Baker was last seen with the children before Fanny's disappearance, Cheney retraced the suspect's steps through the town and located Baker's workplace. Arriving at the solicitor's office around 9 p.m., an hour later than usual, Cheney found Baker still working. Despite being informed that he was the prime suspect, Baker vehemently protested his innocence. With no alternative, Cheney arrested Baker on suspicion of murder. By this time, a sizable and agitated crowd had gathered outside the office, prompting the police to sneak Baker out the back to avoid potential harm from the mob. Upon searching Baker at the police station, they discovered 2 unstained small knives in his possession. Suspicious spots of blood were noticed on both wristbands of his shirt, and his trousers appeared soaked, potentially in concealed bloodstains. When questioned about these findings, Baker remarked, "Well, I don't see a scratch or cut on my hands to account for the blood." Throughout his interrogation, Baker maintained a composed and collected demeanor. Subsequently, Cheney revisited Baker's desk in the solicitor's office and found a diary among legal papers. An entry dated Saturday, August 24th, 1867 read, "Killed a young girl. It was fine and hot." Reports indicated that by September 21st, the Hop Garden had been cleared, but no evidence connected to the murder was recovered. Moreover, despite Baker's arrest, he displayed no signs of insanity or remorse, perplexing authorities. Baker's claims of intoxication after encountering the children was refuted by all evidence and witnesses. On October 19th, Baker was transferred to Winchester Prison. Following Fanny's murder, Hampshire Constabulary continued their investigation until October, when a pivotal eyewitness emerged, a young boy residing near the Adams family. He recalled seeing Baker emerge from the Hop Garden around 2 p.m. on the day of the murder, his hands and clothes soaked in blood. Allegedly, Baker then proceeded to the riverbank, calmly wiped himself with a handkerchief, and stashed a small knife and another unidentified object in his jacket pocket. Although the boy had disclosed this to his mother at the time, she remained silent until sharing the information in a pub 2 months later. Despite a thorough 16-day search of the area, no other weapons were discovered. In late October, Superintendent Cheney urgently requested forensic testing. All recovered clothing and the 2 knives retrieved from Baker during his arrest were dispatched to Professor A.S. Taylor at Guy's Hospital in London for meticulous examination, the most advanced testing available at the time. After weeks of scrutiny, Taylor confirmed that the blood on the knives was human. One of the small knives contained a trace of coagulated blood, although none was found on the handle. Under cross-examination, Taylor expressed surprise at the relatively small amount of blood found on the knives, noting the absence of expected rust if they had been washed. Taylor suggested that an inexperienced individual with a suitable weapon could dismember a body in approximately 30 minutes, resulting in blood seepage rather than spurting. Additionally, Baker's clothing revealed faint traces of diluted blood in specific areas of his waistcoat, trousers, and stockings. His shirt's wristbands, folded back, showed signs of diluted blood staining the folds. There was no indication of sexual assault on the body. Dr. Lewis Leslie from Alton surmised that Fanny's probable cause of death was likely a blow to the head with a stone. Leslie speculated that a large instrument must have been used to dismember the body, and estimated that the dismemberment took less than an hour. Forensic analysis indicated that cuts were made while the body was still warm, suggesting not just cutting but also hacking and tearing. Baker's calculated dismemberment likely allowed him to avoid excessive blood splatter. Forensic experts in London concluded that the small knives found on Baker would not have been capable of severing Fanny's body parts, implying the use of another weapon. Meanwhile, in Winchester Prison, Baker reportedly engaged in conversation with wardens and the chaplain. He maintained his innocence, expressing curiosity about the actual culprit and hoping for their discovery. Baker exhibited a contrast in behavior compared to his time in Alton Prison, where he allegedly experienced disrupted sleep and physical discomfort at the sight of meat. According to English law in the late 19th century, an immediate inquest was mandatory in cases of sudden death, overseen by a coroner. In the case of Fanny Adams, Deputy County Coroner Robert Hartfield presided over the proceedings held at the Duke's Head Inn in Alton on August 27, 1867. Cheney and Acting Chief Constable Superintendent Everett from Hampshire Constabulary were present at this inquiry. The first witness to testify was Minnie Warner, who informed the jury that Baker had given her money to accompany Fanny down the hollow into a nearby field while he collected blackberries for them. Although unable to identify Baker, Minnie accurately described his attire at the time of Fanny's murder. Fanny's mother, Harriet, took the stand next, recalling encountering Baker at the gate to the hop garden, heading toward the road leading to Basingstoke. It was during this encounter that Minnie identified Baker as the person who had given them coins. Contradicting Minnie's statement, Baker claimed he had given 3 halfpence when Harriet questioned him for his name, which he declined to provide, but indicated where he could be found. Mrs. Gardner, who had accompanied Harriet in the search for Fanny, provided testimony afterwards. She successfully identified Baker and informed the jury that he appeared remarkably relaxed during their encounter. After probing him about the missing child and questioning why he had given her money, Mrs. Gardner suggested to Harriet that she should involve the police, citing an incident involving an elderly man giving coins to children for dubious reasons. Baker reiterated that he left Fanny playing at the gate when asked about her whereabouts. When offered an opportunity to cross-examine the witness by the coroner, Baker declined. The inquest concluded that Baker was responsible for Fanny Adams' murder, leading to his committal to Winchester Jail awaiting trial. The trial occurred in Winchester on December 5th. The defense contested Minnie's identification of Baker and argued that the knives found were inadequate for the crime. They also presented a case for Baker's insanity, citing his family history of violence, mental health issues, and past suicide attempts after a failed romance. Furthermore, the defense contended that the diary entry lacked a confession, emphasizing it was typical of Baker's writing style, and the absence of a comma altered its meaning. Justice Mellor suggested the jury consider a verdict of not responsible by reason of insanity. However, within just 15 minutes, the jury returned a guilty verdict. On Christmas Eve, December 24th, Baker was executed by hanging outside Winchester Prison. His execution drew a crowd of 5,000 spectators, marking the final public execution at the prison. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing by clicking the red subscribe button below. And don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support means the world to us. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.